Alright everyone, PayPal has deplatformed Sabo. He's a conservative street artist. He's made basically a large number of satirical sort of, especially campaign-related materials from a generally right-wing angle. And he's not like really that far out, I think, in his views. On certain social issues, like, you know, as with most conservatives, I think I would disagree with him. But by and large, it's memes, essentially. It's political activism in a satirical form, in the form of street art, and it's quite interesting and thought-provoking. He's gotten deplatformed by PayPal, and I don't think a full explanation was really given. It's just basically, hey, you've run afoul of our terms of service, we're stealing your money for the next 6 months, and then we'll tell you how you can get your money if you still have the patience. The fact that PayPal is able to get away with such a policy, by the way, is extremely strange to me. At what point is that not theft? If you've set up PayPal, your PayPal's linked to your bank, you're paying your bills maybe automatically, or certain services and goods you're paying for on a monthly basis, you've automated the system. PayPal says, fuck you, the money's ours until we decide to release it for you. For no legal purpose, for no technological purpose. It's not like we're saying that you're guilty of fraud or we think that you've embezzled money or bought crack or something with it. We just don't like your politics, so we're taking your money for a while. How is that legal? It's not PayPal's money. It's your money. It's simply being held in a PayPal account. And here's the problem. When this was being discussed, people were like, well, they're a private company. They can do what they want. Not really. They're a service that holds a complete monopoly. And try creating a PayPal alternative, and there are two problems that you'll run into. The first is that PayPal and other groups that they're associated with will lean on whatever financial support you're using to develop that platform to deplatform you. It's a form of trust. It's a vertical monopoly. It's also, by the way, technically illegal. Number two, if you manage to develop your service and somehow stay afloat, try getting any of these mainline companies to work with you. See, the problem is it is such a hyper-monopolistic situation that the only way for a PayPal competitor to exist is if a multi-billion-dollar firm like Facebook decides to make one. That's the only alternative. The problem is they immediately get pressured to apply similar TOS. So there is no actual competition. What you have is a few dozen companies essentially rule the entire tech world. Because there's no possibility of actual competition in the face of a danger against the financial system of the entire world, which is like a site like PayPal deciding to steal people's money like this for political reasons to inconvenience them, something must legally be done about this. Now, of course, we've already got laws against this sort of behavior. But as we've seen, Congress over the last few years has done a piss-poor job of doing its job, actually using the law, putting it into force, and making sure that it's adhered to. Like on the border. We have a border in the United States. Whether you like it or not, there is a physical delineation between the U.S. and Mexico. The U.S. government, by law, which has already been passed, and by every form of legislation we exist under, is already tasked with defending that border, making sure it's secure, and prosecuting those who cross illegally. The fact is, though, that for 30 years, we didn't do that. By and large, it was a problem that was ignored. Congress did not do its job despite the fact that legislation was already there. This is the same for a lot of facets of our society. Congress gets bought off by corporations, whether foreign or domestic, and just refuses to do its job. Or an executive gets bought off. They have entanglements with some companies so they don't weaponize the legal system against them when they're caught out in fraud, or an embezzlement scheme, or human trafficking. The fact is this: PayPal is in violation already of U.S. law with this behavior. If you were to look into, if litigation existed with plaintiffs that were rich enough to make sure that they could actually get the courts to do their job, which half the time, again, they won't, I guarantee you would find coordination behind the scenes among multiple supposedly competing tech entities that nonetheless, off paper, work together completely to try to throttle competitors. I think you'd find evidence of trust behavior. I think you'd find corruption from the top to the bottom. I think you'd definitely find political bias that runs afoul potentially of discrimination laws in this country, and I think that they would be prosecuted successfully. The problem is that when you have billions of dollars to throw at the legal system, it becomes difficult to litigate against you. It becomes difficult to get a judge to say, yes, indeed, this private messaging between the CEO of Company A and Company B is subject to review, despite their opposition under the basis that it's classified proprietary proprietary information. And they hide behind it all the time. Even Google does this. Google right now is waging, I believe, a lawsuit in which they're trying to hide certain algorithms from being scrutinized under the basis that it's proprietary, and if you study the algorithms and it gets leaked out, that they lose money. Oh, we can't give you this information because our competitors then will become privy to it through public record, and they will take the material and they'll adapt it. They'll use virgin coders, and they'll take this and they'll develop their own alternative, and then pretty soon our property has been violated. Our right to privacy has been violated, and our right to essentially make money. That's what these tech firms have been doing. But PayPal shouldn't be acting like this. There should be far more outrage. It's like a couple of years ago when someone got deplatformed from one of these tech sites, there was far more outcry. At this point, even though this is a relatively recognizable figure, PayPal has essentially said, we are seizing your belongings, not ours. We're just, a platform that's able to be a middleman, but we're going to hold on to them for 6 months. Fuck your ability to pay bills. Now, what he should do, I don't know if he would see this or not, and what kind of conservatism he searches for on YouTube. Use Subscribestar. Trust me, you'll be just fine and able to make a living, but you got to branch out. Like, he has a Twitter he hasn't posted in a year. Branch out into multiple platforms. You're already using Facebook, which is hilarious to me, but you're not using Twitter. Facebook is worse than Twitter as far as censorship of right-wing figures go. And I say this as a non-right-wing figure. Talk to me about gay rights or abortion sometime. Sabo would be, I think, probably red in the face and log off at some point. But he shouldn't be deplatformed. Again, we have got to start getting into the mindset where we become absolutists for free speech and expression and the right to free enterprise. You cannot possibly be a conservative in any measure and think that it's okay for individuals' private productive capacity to be robbed from them by an entity that does globalistic style business. PayPal is a globalistic firm. It's essentially an attachment to existing other tech firms and the banking system to coordinate the transfer of funds. That's what PayPal is. By the way, there is no instance particularly in which you have to use PayPal. I used to think, well, if I don't have PayPal, it'll be so hard to do e-commerce stuff. It'll be so hard to use these sites. It's actually not. I guess unless you're hosting some sort of web store, PayPal doesn't really give you that much of an advantage. You can put your bank info into most of these sites. Like, I mean, what do you use? At the end of the day, you probably use Amazon. You probably buy things. And you probably use eBay sometimes. I prefer eBay for shopping. I prefer Amazon for anything literary related. You don't need PayPal for that. In fact, does eBay even allow PayPal? I think there's one of these sites doesn't even allow it. Is it Amazon or is it eBay that disallows PayPal even from being used there? Maybe other sites should be pressured to that. Now, PayPal needs to, I mean, you can't legitimately argue to me, terms of service aside, that it's acceptable to you as an individual, unless you're like some rich bitch with 10% PayPal stock shares or something. You can't possibly argue that it's acceptable for a multinational, extremely wealthy firm to essentially steal somebody's private money and prevent them from being able to pay their bills and so forth. 6 months? That's a long time to hold somebody's material. I don't know how much money we're talking about that he has there, but he lives in a high tax area, so got to pay it somehow. I guess he'll have to switch to making pornographic street art and sell it for $5 a piece to people in their basements or something. No, you should get a Subscribestar. Make it clear that you're being, harassed and discriminated against and abused by this company. Create a Subscribestar. Trust me, they don't care about your material being edgy or controversial. I use Subscribestar. I think it's great. I'm making almost as much on there as I am on Patreon. Patreon's been hemorrhaging support since it kicked Sargon off. Consistently, anyone who's doing politics decreasingly is reliant upon it. It's funny how actually we've weaned ourselves largely off that side of crowdfunding, particularly because of that. Then, of course, they attacked Subscribestar. Thankfully, it was unsuccessful. And you can do monthly or single donations on there, which is something that I don't think any of these other services really offer. Most of them are like, they're for someone who's like, they want to invent a new microwave or something, or you've got something that's for like indie bands, fundraising for those purposes, or you've got crowdfunding sites for like, well, I need emergency tonsillectomy or something, I need to raise $500. Really, for mainline creation, it's Patreon or Subscribestar. One of these doesn't care what your political views are. As far as PayPal, they obviously do care. And then Visa and MasterCard definitely play a role in this, which I think is highly regrettable. The banking institutions of the country should not have political views. They really shouldn't. It's a terrible idea. That's about all. Peace out.